This book is called Young Junius. Really excited about this novel. It's my second. First one was Jack Wakes Up. In this one, I've been able to do a third person where I look into a lot of the different characters' psyches and their points of view on the action that's happening in the book. So I'm able to see some of the different characters, really see what's going on in this world of project towers in Cambridge, Mass. In the late 80s. I grew up in Cambridge, and so it's really exciting for me to be able to bring back my fiction to where I grew up. So here we're going to meet Junius and Elf as they're getting to these big project towers that you see here on the cover called the Ringe Towers. And we'll see what starts to go down there. This table's a little bit. Alright. They pushed out onto Ringe Ave and headed straight up the block. Junius knew he had as much chance of seeing someone from Marlene's crew first as Rock's. Problem was, he didn't know what Marlene's crew would do if they saw him. Rock's people, that he knew. Junius could see the parking lot again. Cars and the first of the towers, 410, one of Marlene's. They had to watch what they did and how they moved. Junius put his hand on Elf's shoulder. When Junius looked across the cars at 410, he saw a black BMW roll into the lot, creep up to the front and stop. It had tinted side windows, but through the windshield he could see a white guy was driving. The car idled for a minute, clouds puffing out of the muffler. Finally, the lobby door to 410 opened, and one of Marlene's soldiers walked out. Junius knew the guy from around, but wasn't sure of his name. He was older, someone Temple knew. He wore a thick tan parka with gray fur up around the edges of the hood. He walked behind the car and came up to the driver's side. When he did, the driver's window went down. Inside, a bald white dude with a scruffy beard held his head over the door. One of his eyebrows arced halfway up to the top of his forehead, and he looked wild in the eyes. His hair wasn't like most bald dudes, with some around the edges. This was more like he'd shaved it himself. Not slick like Kojak. More like it happened only now and then. The guy talked loud enough that Junius could hear his voice, nasal and angry, but not what he said. Marlene's soldier looked away, spit onto the asphalt, and shook his head. Junius heard him say the word police when he turned back to the car, and the white guy started waving his hands. Now Junius could hear him louder.
"What makes you think I'm a cop?"
he said. Marlene's guy turned again, leaned up against the car's trunk and stared at his fingers. Another soldier came out of 410, big pickup. He got the name when he bought a used Ford a few summers back. He drove that shit around North Cambridge, the only brother any of them had ever seen in a pickup truck, so the name stuck to him stronger than herpes. The big part couldn't be disputed. He looked at least 6'6" and 250. He wore a triple fat goose jacket inside out, with the geese emblem patterned all over his upper body. "Yo," Junius said. He could feel Elf next to him, watching the scene go down. "Who that motherfucker with pickup?" "Meldrak," Elf said. "People call him Drac. He ain't right. Him, you do not fuck with. Not when Big P got his back." Big Pickup reached the front of the BMW. He stood in front of the car and folded his arms across his chest. The only way the car could pull out now was in reverse. The white guy said something else. Did you know that they picked out the blue and yellow M&Ms just for me? This is the best store ever. Sorry. The white guy said something else, and Drac shook his head. Then the guy opened his door and even got out, holding his hands up around his shoulders. Drac walked away from the car, looking to the street. Junius ducked. Shit. Now the time to move. While they watching this.
Yeah.
Elf was right. But I want to see. Elf swore and told Junius to come on. As he stood up, the white guy walked to Drac. Pickup said something, his arms still crossed, and the white guy stopped. Just the fact that he almost walked away from his car, a loaded BMW with the engine running, certified this motherfucker as one of the crazier white people Junius had ever seen. Elf crossed behind a car, heading parallel to the BMW and toward 411. Every step he took brought him closer to Rock's territory. The white guy came back to the door of his BMW. Even as cold as it was, he untucked his shirt and held his jacket open. Inside, he wore a t-shirt with some crazy kind of eyeball in a triangle on it. He pulled his shirt up past the nipples and showed Pickup his skinny chest. The guy was pink and barely taller than his car. "Yo," Junius said. "He your white brother?" Elf didn't answer. Pickup just stared at the man like he was crazy. That was when he started to go for his belt and drop his pants. Junius got a chill just watching, knowing how big Pickup would respond. And just like that, Pickup drew, held out a little black gun that looked like a toy, but it wasn't. The white guy laughed and held up his hands.
It's cool, man. It's cool. Yo. I'm not doing the pants dropping scene.
No, that part. I mean, it's fiction. 1987. He'd already undone his belt buckle and his jeans, though, and his pants started to sag. Then they fell around his ankles. Junius could see his red bikini underwear from 20 feet away. "You seeing this?" he asked Elf. "Can't believe this shit. Come on." Junius hoped Elf was watching where they went, because he couldn't take his eyes away from what Jack would do next. Pickup had already put his gun away and was turning around, heading from the car. He shook his head, and from the way his shoulders moved, Junius could see he was laughing. Drac hit the white guy on the arm, saying something Junius couldn't hear. The guy bent over and pulled up his pants.
20?
He said in an angry voice. Drac watched him tuck his shirt in and buckle his belt. Finally, the guy pulled out his wallet. But when Drac took a bill from the man, he just turned toward the building.
What? What about the handoff? You know.
The guy started to raise his voice again, and Drac stepped back. He pointed inside to Big Pickup. "You want to see him again?" "Yo, hold up," Elf said, stopping short. He got down fast behind a car, pulling Junius with him.
"Hey, man, I just want my shit."
Junius could see the two of them and the BMW, but he couldn't see what Elf was watching. 20, Drac said, holding out his hand.
"Man,
The bald guy pointed at Drac's pocket, the first bill, and then gave up and reached back for another 20.
Fuck it. Let me see the bag this time."
Drac scanned the area fast, though if anything was going to happen, it'd have gone down long ago. He reached into the back of his pants for a bag. "Check this out," Elf said. Junius turned around and peered over the hood of the car. "What?" "Check out 412, Elf said. "I think something getting ready to go down." Across the front of 411 and beyond a few rows of cars, Junius could see the front of 412 and a long white Lincoln with tinted windows pulled in. Could see the front as a long white Lincoln with tinted windows pulled in. A couple of Rock's boys, Roughneck and Black Jesus, came out of the building through the double front doors. Roughneck was just rough. That was how he got his name. Black Jesus? Black Jesus had Jerry curl worse than AC Green, all the way down to his shoulders. You guys remember AC Green, I'm sure. Like her. Neither Roughneck nor Black Jesus were out selling. They just stood by the doors of 412, watching everything go down, barely paying attention to the BMW. "What is this?" "Wait." As Elf said it, Roughneck stopped and held his right hand up. Just a hand, the one closer to the doors. Everything seemed to stop. Black Jesus looked at Rough, then turned to face the same way. They both watched the car Junius and Elf were behind. "Get down," Elf whispered. Junius dropped lower, below where he could see the front of 412. He turned, put his back against the car, and leaned against it, keeping his head down. The white guy in front of 410 said,
"Now that's just not right."
But from his position, Junius couldn't see the BMW. He saw Big Pickup outside again, in front of 410, and heard Drac say, "Then just go fuck yourself."
"You..."
Junius winced at the possibility of what might come, of how badly this guy would fucked up if he actually said nigger. But then he just said,
"You my man, all right? We cool?"
Drac was already walking away from the BMW, toward the front of 410. He waved his hand as if he were brushing crumbs off a table. "Okay, buddy," he said with a flat accent. "Okay, buddy," he said with a flat accent. "Keep it moving." Junius heard the door of the BMW slam and its engine rev. Pickup stood with his arms crossed on his chest, facing 412. He didn't notice Junius or Elf. "What's going on?" Junius asked. Elf had almost flattened himself against the ground to see under the car. "They just waiting," he said. "They see us?" They checking Drac and Big Pick. Then Big Pickup nodded in the direction of 412. "Morning," he told Rock's boys. Junius didn't hear anything come from the others. "You'll peep this," Elf said. Junius turned and crept to the front of the car. Roughneck had started to wave with his right hand, but not at Pickup, at the building. Then the doors of 412 opened and a black Doberman walked out slowly, a big one. The dog wore a gray fur collar, and as it came forward, Junius saw the leash trail behind it. Black Jesus opened the back door of the Lincoln. "That's Bonnie," Elf said. "Bonnie?" "The dog, nigga. Bonnie the Doberman." That was when Rock came out of 412 holding the other end of the leash. Junius had seen him maybe twice before. Not much more than that. He came to the Cambridge City Championships a year or two back, when Temple's team played Lamar's. Junius remembered the way Rock sat in the middle of the stands, with all his boys around him, keeping everyone else too far away to touch him. He had a girl on his arm Junius couldn't get enough of. She was like a magnet to his eyes. Every time he looked, it seemed like he could see more of her body. He kept glancing back, thinking he was definitely going to see her nipple if she moved the right way in her shirt. He knew he wasn't supposed to do it, that staring at Rock or his girl would get him fucked up. So he tried not to, but damn if he didn't think about her all through the game and dreamt about her that night. Now Rock wore a gray fur coat that fell to his ankles. He wasn't as tall as Roughneck or Black Jesus, but his coat was long and it looked soft. He had dark black glasses and a high-top fade that slanted to the side in a way that people were calling it Gumby. His skin looked like he'd just come out of a warm bath, like he was cleaner than anyone Junius knew. His goatee was just like the kind Junius wanted, but couldn't grow yet. His strut and the way his jacket matched the dog's collar made 412 Ringe Avenue look like an apartment building on Commonwealth Ave. That, or like the one on TV where the Jeffersons lived. Like Roughneck was his personal doorman. Black Jesus held the Lincoln's door open and the dog jumped right in. Then Rock followed, never touching the car, his whole exit as cool as the other side of the pillow. Roughneck hadn't moved. He still eyed Black Pickup. "Morning," he said, finally. Black Jesus closed the door of the Lincoln and got in the passenger side in front. The big car hummed and started to roll through the parking lot. Roughneck never turned it, not even watching it go. He finally nodded again toward Big Pickup and then went back into the building. "Shit," Junius said. "Yeah, shit," Elf said.